Okay, hello class. Good day to everyone. We are now on our next session in your subject Professional Education 1, the Child and Adolescent Learners and Learning Principles. Well, in this session, we are going to discuss human development, its meaning, concepts, and approaches. Well, according to William Shakespeare, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exit and entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. With this quotation, we know very well that each of us has a different entrances and exits in our lives, okay, as we go along with our learning and development endeavors. Human development, according to Santrop on 2002, is that it is the pattern of movement or change that begins at conception and continues through lifespan. When we're talking about conception, that pertains to the very start or the beginning with the union of the gametes, the sperm cell and the egg cell. Well, it includes, of course, the growth and decline, either the increase in the development and the decrease of our development. Well, development can be positive or negative, given that we may experience a growth or a decline in our development. Now, let's proceed with some major principles of human development.
As we go down with the different principles of human development, the first is principle 1 is that development is relatively orderly. Now, based from the pictures presented, the picture A and picture B, you can easily determine that those individuals or those children in there has the capacity to learn first to sit, to crawl, then walk before they can run, of course. And we have this phenomenon in this principle, the so-called proximodistal pattern, wherein the muscular control of the hands and the arms comes earlier as compared to the hands and fingers. And this is proximodistal pattern, meaning to say, mas nauuna in terms of the muscular control or the movement or the control of our muscles starts first from hands and arms. And in the later growth, here comes the hands and fingers. And we have also the cephalocaudal pattern. These are the two patterns. Now, during infancy, the greatest growth always occurs at the top, which is the head, with physical growth and size, weight and future differentiation, which gradually working its way down to the top to bottom. So that includes the extremities, meaning to say we have the point of origin that starts from the size of our brain and our body. If you could notice in the first pattern, it starts from the hand and the arms prior to our extremities, bago yung ating fingers and other extremities. For example, your neck, our shoulders, middle trunk, and so on. So this is cephalocaudal pattern. Now, by understanding how characteristics develop, we can make relatively accurate, useful predictions about our learners and design effective instructional strategies, since we can easily detect and better known of what are those best teaching or instruction strategies that we could give to our students or our pupils relative to their age bracket, by determining that based from the presented pattern that the development of our extremities appeared late compared to the patterns presented that started from these the presented points of origin. Principle number 2 is that while the pattern of development is likely to be similar, the outcomes of development processes and the rate of development are likely to vary among individuals. Now, presented what I have shared to you in the previous slides, the pictures A and B, is that you were able to give your different ifs and different description based on the pictures. Well, if you could notice, or if you could say that picture A comes from a good home with loving parents or with caring parents, they may develop into a warm and responsible children, adolescents, and even as they reach adulthood. So if they come from a deprived environment, they may likely to develop into a carefree and irresponsible adolescents into adults. Manifested in those pictures may be they have this development that may faster and more favorable than the other one. And since we know very well that heredity and environment are different for different people, it seems that it's obvious that each pictures will encounter, or those individuals in the pictures presented would likely to experience different orientations. And as a result, we can expect significant differences that may develop, or different characteristics that this child may develop in the later years of their growth and development. The next principle is that development takes place. So, ibig sabihin class, sa ating principle, sa second principle is that dalawa lang ang ating tinitingnan, and this includes the heredity and environment. Principle number 3, development takes place gradually. Now, so this time, let's talk about the principles of child development and learning that inform practice. So these are the principles which are being considered based on the study that may affirm on the human development and characteristics of lifespan development approach. So the first one is that all the domains of development and learning that includes your physical, social, and emotional, and cognitive are important, and they are closely interrelated. Second, many aspects of children's learning and development follow a well-documented sequences, which later the abilities, skills, and knowledge building on those already acquired. Third is that development and learning proceed at varying rates from child to child, as well as the uneven rates across different areas of a child's individual functioning. Fourth, development and learning result from a dynamic and continuous interaction of biological maturation and experience. And early experiences have profound effects, both cumulative and delayed, on a child's development and learning, and optimal periods exist from certain types of development and learning to occur, and development proceeds toward greater complexity, self-regulation, and symbolic or representational capacities. Children develop best when they have secure, consistent relationship with responsive adults and opportunities for positive relationship with peers. This is the reason why family orientation is very much important. As you could notice that in the DepEd schools, they would always include the roles of the parents of the family on the safety and security of the students learning in school. Development and learning occur and are influenced by multiple social and cultural contexts. We are always affected. The development of the child or the learning is being affected by in a multifacets of context, the social and cultural context. So there are traditions that needs to consider for a certain child before they has to be subjected to different learning interventions, and always mentally active and seeking to understand the world around them. Children learn in variety of ways. A wide range of teaching strategies and interactions are effective in supporting all these kinds of learnings. As teachers, we would always look into different teaching strategies that would fit into the students' capacities, into the students' orientation. This is the reason why we would always try to consider the family background, the psychological and cognitive aspect of a child before we target or before we give or introduce different activities in indoor learning. And play is an important vehicle for developing self-regulation as well as for promoting language, cognition, and social competence. There are various research established that gamification or play is a very good and an excellent method or strategies for us to implement in the teaching learning process. And development and learning advance when children are challenged to achieve at a level just beyond their current mastery, and also when they have many opportunities to practice newly acquired skills. We do not, it has something to do with stagnation. We do not rely on the capacity of the students, but we encourage optimum development. We introduce challenging tasks that may allow the students to think critically and creatively, that they have to go beyond their limitation or their capacities. It's not just relying on their newly acquired skills, but we enrich that one with an introduction of new intervention, new innovation with the skills that they need to master. This is the reason why, if you could notice the key to 12 curriculum of DepEd, it is something to do with the so-called the spiral progression, or the complexity of the or the level of and the complexity of the topics are start from a ladder type, wherein the learners were able to, or the child were able to learn first the basics, as we transcend into the more complex and more attainable and more after birth or into adulthood. Okay, so thank you very much, and good day everyone, and keep safe.